In the early hours on a cold August winter's day back in 1988, a beautiful young lady, my mum, rushed off to the hospital and gave birth to me. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Leslie and here is my story. I am the youngest in a family of 5. I have a loving and hardworking father, a beautiful and caring mother, an amazing older sister named Elizabeth, and an awesome older brother named Warren. Growing up, I've always been close to everyone in my family despite the age differences between us all. My sister is 8 years older and my brother is 3 years older than me. My parents have always taught us to love and respect each other. They remind us to always stick together because family will always be a part of us. These words and morals will always remain within me. Anyway, I was born and raised in Melbourne, Australia and lived in a suburb called Noble Park for the first 5 years of my life. The house we lived in was a single story, but I remember it to be rather big, with a huge backyard and a large garage where my parents used to bring work home to sew clothes for a living. We weren't wealthy, but my parents worked hard to provide us with everything we needed, and at the end of every year, they'd take us on family vacations so that we'd have adventure stories to share like other kids. At a young toddler age, I attended a local creche when my parents started to work away from home. It was one of the earliest and saddest times I recall as a child. I remember being dropped off in a dark and unfamiliar room in a cot and my parents kissed me goodbye as they walked away. I stood at the end of the cot and cried and asked for them to come back, but they didn't. That was the very first time. It took me quite some time to adjust to being dropped off and separated from my parents and siblings. There were often times when Mum would drop me off and I would sit by the front window, hands pressed against the glass, and I'd watch her walk away as tears would fill my eyes. It was difficult trying to adapt to being at creche. At home, our main spoken language would be Cantonese, so my English vocabulary was only to a minimum. But as time passed, I had gained more confidence and learned to play with the other kids. For as far as I can remember, I had a really happy childhood filled with lots of good and happy memories. Back at the Noble Park house, my siblings and I would often play a role-playing game we called shopping. In hindsight now, there wasn't much shopping involved in it. We'd build tents using blankets and chairs and my brother would pretend that was his army camp. My sister would often own a tassel shop and sometimes even a McDonald's restaurant. I don't remember owning anything, so perhaps I was just a regular customer pushing a dolly baby in a pram. We'd have so much fun. Being closer in age with my brother, we sometimes play what we called teams. This involved another role-playing game where we move miniature figurines around and make them talk to each other. Not sure why we even called it teams when often there would only be one team with one big boss. We could play that and get lost in that imaginary world for hours. On days when the weather is nice, the family would go out for a picnic and Dad would take us out to fly kites. Dad has always been really good with flying kites and making them. Back in Vietnam, when Dad was a child, he used to make them pretty often using shopping bags and sticks. He'd make the kites the same way and take us to parks so that we could go fly them. Since my sister is many years older than us, she's always been very responsible and taking care of my brother and I. She used to make us study and teach us new words. A few of the earliest words she taught me how to spell were jelly, pool, zoo, and poo. Next to these words, she'd draw a little cartoon picture to go with it. Friday nights were always family shopping night at our local shopping centre called Southland. Just before leaving the house, Dad would wait by the front door and say the same phrase every time as we put on our shoes. "Let's go shopping." It's definitely one of the phrases I will never forget. We used to laugh at how often he'd say it. In 1993, I started kindergarten. It was always quite enjoyable being able to play with the toy kitchen, draw and paint. I've always loved arts and crafts and kindergarten provided me with plenty of opportunities to explore my creative side on paper. However, there was one incident I still remember so clearly. It was the very first time I had experienced being bullied by another child. I feel bad that Mum was there to witness it too, but simultaneously I was glad she was there. I remember playing in the sandpit and out of the blue, a little boy who was playing there too had thrown sand at me and into my eyes. Mum told him off. It was a very scary experience. Primary school started in 1994 and I remember feeling really happy being there. I had made quite a few friends and got along with many of the kids. My 3 closest friends were Kimberly, Camilla and Stacy. Sadly, our friendship didn't last for long because by term 4 in the same year, I had to change schools. It was around September or so when we moved houses to a suburb called Rowville. In 1995, I met my first childhood best friend, Emily. We were in the same class together in grade 1. However, in the same year, she had to move away to Queensland with her family. We stayed in touch by writing to each other and the occasional return visits. It was hard to say goodbye to her every time she had to go back. As years passed, her family moved up to America, separating our friendship even further, and we soon grew apart. For quite some time during my childhood, I had an imaginary friend called Mr. Fox. He was a special imaginary friend of mine that I created especially for my brother because I wanted to impress him. I thought I could impress him by telling him that Mr. Fox had magical powers that could clean bedrooms really quickly. Instead, he realized that he could take advantage of it, and I foolishly ended up cleaning his bedroom every time he asked for Mr. Fox. Like most girls at a young age, I had a collection of dolls and Barbie dolls I used to play with. I could spend hours being imaginative and creating scenarios for each play session. A funny thing that I do remember is that I only had one Ken doll, and that one Ken doll ended up dating all of my Barbies. What a pimp. Anyway, I enjoyed playing with dolls until I was around 11. Sadly, I can still remember 2 events that occurred that gradually stopped me from playing. The first event happened when I was sitting in a circle with my dolls sitting next to me in my bedroom. An uncle of mine who was over at our house at that time came up to my bedroom door and laughed at me. I remember him telling me how scary it was to hear me speak to myself in my room. He later went back downstairs to share the experience with all the other adults. I felt so embarrassed. I don't think I ever spoke aloud with my toys ever again. After that embarrassing experience with my uncle, I started to reduce my play area and played only quietly inside my room. However, the next event occurred on several occasions when my brother would sneak into my room and catch me playing. He would then tease me and say how he would tell all my friends at school that I still played with Barbies. It was hard to stop doing what I loved doing, but I knew I had to stop sometime because I was growing up. I started high school in 2001 with many of my friends from the same primary school. Apart from the ones I had from primary, I had made many new friends at the new school too. School was enjoyable in every way, and I had participated in the school choir as well. However, in 2002, I started to notice myself drifting away from those around me. I felt different from everyone, and so I changed schools the following year. It was the first time I felt unhappy being at school. The change in school the following year made a huge difference. This was also the year I met many of my closest friends till this very day. Despite the distance I had to travel, I was proud to be a student at that school. Every day I would wake up at 6 a.m. to catch the 6:45 a.m. bus to catch the 7:07 a.m. train from Ferntree Gully Station. I would get to school an hour early before school starts, and this is what I had to do each day in order to not be late. It was either get to school early or get there maybe just on time or late. I was always afraid of getting told off, so I avoided my chances of being late. Sadly, 2003 was also the year I had experienced the sad loss of a friend due to an awful accident. It was a clear sunny morning on September 19, 2003. I travelled to school the same time and way as how I would usually travel, but this day was different. Although I was only 15 at the time, the world I had known before was never the same again after this incident. I often think back to this day, and it's hard not to replay the events in my head when I travel past where she once stayed. I can still remember the moment, the before thoughts, the emptiness, the lost sense of understanding what there was to acknowledge and accept. I remember how quiet everything was around me. For a long time, I would not let myself believe what was actually happening and what had happened. I was there, and because of that, I feel somewhat involved. At such a low and difficult time in my life, I was lucky to have had the support I had needed to bring me back to the acceptance of reality. Wounds from losing a friend is hard to heal, but from the love I had received from those around me, reminded me that there was still so much more to live and fight for. Lucky for me, I had met one of my best friends only a year before, and if it wasn't for his love and support, I would have struggled to fight through the early stages of acceptance. For most of my remaining high school years, I had formed many close friendships which we still remain close today. I discovered my passion for photography and carry a camera on me for practically every day of my life. I am known as a shutterbug, even till this very day. You won't believe the number of times I've spoken to people I've never met before, and they mention that they've seen a few photos I've taken. Pretty funny and sort of creepy at the same time. After I graduated from high school at the end of 2006, my parents decided to take my brother and I, along with my aunt, uncle and 2 younger cousins, on our very first overseas trip in Asia. Little did I know before this holiday how much of an impact it would have on me till this day. I had always known we were lucky to be born and raised in Australia, but the trip away had provided me with more than just an appreciation of how lucky we were. It opened up my heart and my mind on how many different things that existed within this world. Suddenly, problems from yesterday seemed so minor. I would definitely recommend first-hand traveling to anyone who has yet seen what valuable lessons this world has to offer. After this trip, my world had become more meaningful. I started my tertiary schooling years after high school in 2007. I also started my first part-time job at a local bakery. I used to come home with sesame seeds stuck to my knees, and I would cry at the end of each day because of how hard I had worked there, but I never felt appreciated. Shortly after my job at the bakery, I started to work as a weekend finance and cashier for a large retail company. Little to say, I've been really happy with my job and have now been with the company for over 6 years. It's amazing how quickly time flies. Towards the end of 2007, my big sister Elizabeth married her dream partner and best friend, so I had gained a wonderful brother-in-law named Khan. Apart from the record-freezing cold summer day, the wedding was beautiful and memorable in every way. On a side note, my brother-in-law gives awesome advices and cooks the best meals. I'm so happy for my sister. Anyway, in 2008, I switched universities and picked up a double degree in business and science. However, my passion still remains with photography, so as a side hobby, I do a lot of photo taking of events, my travels and of friends and family. I am pretty much inseparable from my camera. Every opportunity I get, I seize the moment to capture it in digital form. It's rewarding to take photos and look back on what I've taken. This is one way to capture time and make a special moment last forever. My sister gave birth to her first child towards the end of March 2011 and her second child in March this year. Michaela is now 2 and Xavier is now almost 5 months old. Before meeting these two precious bundles of joy, I have never been close to any other baby or child before. It's been amazing watching them grow up. They teach me so much about life I've never known before, how precious time is and how we never stop learning and growing. They taught me how to appreciate the simple things in life again, things that many of us tend to forget or neglect over the years. I've never known how much love I could have for someone I've only known in such a short time. They're now my best friend, my niece and nephew, and my little learning sponges. I love them so much. As for my brother, he's a huge inspiration in my life and continues to amaze me with everything he achieves. In early 2012, him and his friend put their hearts together and started a non-profit organisation with a group of volunteers called 300 Blankets. This is the second year 300 Blankets has organised fundraising events to raise money to buy blankets for the homeless in Melbourne. Together, with the help of many supporters, they have raised over 3,000 blankets. I am so proud of him and his team. Finally for me, I now have someone really special in my life, and with only one more semester to go before I graduate, I can't wait to see what the future holds. What's important is that we're all here now and that we are happy and healthy. The world we live in is truly a beautiful place with endless opportunities. I am grateful for all that I've experienced, all that I have, and for all the love and support I've received from family and friends over the years. Whether you're someone I know or have known in the past, thank you for making a difference in my life. Like a tree that we planted together, our journey together have only just started to blossom.